Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings, for another important independent media news update. And today is October 9th, 2017. And in this video, we will be talking about Republicans warning about World War III. So we're going to go over all the countries who are going to win the coveted prize of freedom and democracy on their homeland in this video. We're also going to be talking about the scary updates between the relationship between powerful figures, media, and of course the sex scandals that have been going around. And of course, more extreme YouTube censoring, crushing the souls of independent entrepreneurs who want to make a job telling you the truth that the corporate media, of course, won't. Now, first of all, let's just start off with maybe the World War III topic, since, you know, it's trending and it's World War III. As right now, Donald Trump is publicly sparring with his own Republican U.S. Senator Bob Corker, which, by the way, many people are saying this public feud will put an end and a full stop to the tax reform that Donald Trump is trying to push. But in this feud, Bob Corker said something last night that made everyone go, uh-oh, as he warned that Donald Trump is steering the United States towards World War III. Now, Bob Corker is a part of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and is privy to a lot of classified information, and he said publicly that Donald Trump's governing style is fit more for a reality show than the White House, with him further fueling the bitter public row between former allies. Now, whether this comment was made in the heat of a moment between arguments between the two, or whether it was an actual warning to the American people, we do have to admit that Donald Trump is threatening war on a lot of countries. Even recently, with his cryptic cliffhanger, telling the media with the full military brass behind him that this is the calm before the storm. So I think it would be important to examine which country will receive the distinct honor to have freedom and democracy rained on them through barrel bombs, which we're going to take a look at right now. Could it be Venezuela, which Donald Trump threatened military action just a few weeks ago at the UN General Assembly, where get this, he said he wants to spread freedom and democracy in that country. And I'm sorry to laugh, but we all know the United States is not in the business of creating freedom and democracy all over the world. It's really because Venezuela declared war on the US petrodollar, but that's a whole nother subject. And even though there's a lot of tough talk there from both Maduro of Venezuela and Donald Trump, it seems very unlikely that something will escalate to something more serious in South America. But could it be Iran, the country that has an agreement with the United States that was signed by Barack Obama called the Iran nuclear deal, which prevents Iran from expanding their nuclear proliferation? I can't say that, but that doesn't matter, you know what I mean. In exchange for ending the sanctions against that country, which independent auditors have said that Iran is complying with this deal and holding up their end of the bargain. And this is according to European allies and the United Nations watchdog tasked with monitoring the situation. And even with all that information, Donald Trump is still saying that he will declare that Iran is not compliant, even though they are, and possibly put more sanctions on the Iranian country. Of course, this is worrying a lot of people because this would reinstitute economic warfare between the United States and Iran. And to make the situation worse, the United States is planning to designate the Revolutionary Guards, the Iranian military forces, as a terrorist organization. By the way, this is the same Iranian military that has been fighting against al-Nusra and ISIS inside of Syria, which the Iranians responded by saying that they would give a crushing response if the United States does this. And as you probably know from watching this YouTube channel, a war between Iran and Israel, as Newsweek puts it, is not only very likely, but is only a matter of time till it happens, as we have already seen the Israeli military attack Hezbollah Iranian forces inside of Syria that were fighting against radical Islamic terrorist groups and the rebels. Iran, of course, supports Hezbollah and the Syrian government, which, of course, don't have a very favorable view of Israel. And as the Syrian war ends, we are seeing a more Iranian Hezbollah-dominated presence right on Israel's border, which Israel says that they will not tolerate, which of course would bring Iran into the conflict, and Israel would of course be supported by the United States like they always have been. The likelihood of an Iranian-US war, I think, are very likely. It's been the neoconservatives' wet dream for decades now, where neoconservatives even openly talked about false flagging an event to start a war with Iran, which of course coincides with a lot of the decisions Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the United States have been making inside of the Middle East. So yeah, that situation is likely, but also very unpredictable, mainly because Russia and China are major economic partners with Iran, and have even said recently that they hope that the Iran nuclear deal stays intact, and criticized Donald Trump for his hawkish comments against Iran. But I think the most likely disastrous situation would of course be with North Korea, which just moments ago, Russia and China declared and called for restraint on Donald Trump with his latest comments on North Korea. As we know, Donald Trump has been hinting at a military action in North Korea on his Twitter, and just moments ago, Defense Secretary James Mattis told the U.S. Army to be ready on North Korean military options. The United Kingdom is also preparing for a possible war with North Korea right now as we're speaking. Now, the North Korean situation is very confusing, and I definitely recommend you watch some of our previous videos just on that country alone. But I think after examining all these countries, North Korea is the most likely country that the United States will engage in war in. Will it happen? We don't know. We also have China and Russia, who really don't want that to happen and would engage with the United States and butt heads on the world stage if a scenario of war would happen. To be honest with you guys, what will happen? I don't know. And I don't think anyone else knows. But I think it's important to lay out these situations for you. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And now, moving forward, in other short, fat, ugly, disgusting, despotic political leaders news, no, we're not talking about Kim Jong-un. We're talking about Sir Edward Heath, the now deceased former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, with a very important news update about the child sex abuse ring that this former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom was involved in. The police chief who investigated the former Prime Minister and wrote a report talking about how he abused little children when he was in power just came out moments ago and said that he could have spent 2 or 3 more years investigating the child pedophilia rings, but he was stopped from doing so. And he was prevented from digging deeper on this extremely important matter by, of course, the UK government. And now this brave police chief is calling for a new investigation into the most powerful politicians in the United Kingdom who were caught being pedophiles. This police chief was lambasted by cabinet ministers, MPs, peers, members of the judicial and media moguls for investigating Ted Heath. They said he was being stupid, leading a witch hunt. See all the people covering up actual child abuse by the rich and powerful, which of course ran a relentless campaign by the establishment to undermine him. And yet, still, under all that pressure, he was still able to file a report that proved that the former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom was an outright child abuser and pedophile. Now, in a related story about the media cover-up of sex abuse, we're also finding out that media mogul Harvey Weinstein, who has been exposed for sexually abusing women for over 3 decades, that this latest information that's just coming out right now with this latest abuse scandal was actually known to the New York Times 13 years ago, and the New York Times decided to sit on the story. The editors killed the story, according to a reporter within the New York Times, because of alleged pressure. This, of course, allowed this abusive monster to continue his attacks against women, even as recently trapping a reporter in a hallway and committing really lewd, disgusting acts in front of her. And the reporter that was originally investigating Weinstein in 2004 said that the story was killed after pressure from A-list celebrities like Matt Damon and Russell Crowe. This, of course, puts the New York Times in a very tough spot, which initially broke the story a few days ago, which shows you not only how the rich and powerful could commit really horrible, horrendous acts, but just the evil ways that they are able to get away with it because of their power and money. And now the Weinstein Company that was started by this abuser is set to not only change their name, but have also fired their founder, Harvey Weinstein, amid all these sexual harassment accusations. We covered this story yesterday, so if you want a full perspective, just watch yesterday's video. And we have to understand this is not just a single case of abuse. This happens in Hollywood and elite circles more than you think. As Corey Feldman, a former actor, came out and said,
I can tell you that the number one problem in Hollywood was and is and always will be pedophilia. That's the biggest problem.
Vultures who Feldman says abused him and his best friend, the late child actor Corey Haim, his co-star in The Lost Boys.
Well, what happens if my mom is dating the head vampire?
Feldman says the trauma of that pedophilia contributed to Haim's death.
There's one person to blame in the death of Corey Haim, and that person happens to be a Hollywood mogul. And that person needs to be exposed, but unfortunately I can't be the one to do it. But the person that knows who did it and knows who he is watching right now, I guarantee you.
And as we learned from the Jimmy Savile case in the United Kingdom, sexual abuse doesn't only happen in the entertainment business, but is well connected with the political sphere that, of course, the authorities and mainstream media will cover up for and lie to you about, as Corey Feldman explained it here.
Sick, corrupt people in this industry. And there are people in this industry who have gotten away with it for so long that they feel they're above the law. And that's got to change. That's got to stop.
And as we reported to you yesterday, this is the same entertainment industry that YouTube is laying out the red carpet for, monetizing Las Vegas shooting videos for, while demonetizing, de-incentivizing, censoring, and deleting real independent media who are not caught up in this massive corrupt sphere of money and influence like the mainstream media. And days ago, when YouTube announced algorithm changes because of the Las Vegas shooting, I told you it would be used against everyone, and it is. It's not just crazy conspiracy theorists that they're going after. They're going after people like PragerU, which Google is not even allowing them to promote their videos, saying that it is dangerous and derogatory content to talk about two genders. They have censored Mike Cernovich's documentary on Sweden, made it restricted even though there's zero nudity in that documentary. They even deleted a recent video that Mark Dice made on his YouTube channel, while demonetizing our content and other independent journalists' content as well, while at the same time making sure that ABC and other corporate giant media mogul companies have the list and the priority when it comes to search results, recommended videos, and of course, major monetization. Now, face value, that's a lot to worry about, but it gets more sinister, and I'm worried about this because I know for a fact that this corrupt, big, powerful, influential media institutions that YouTube is pushing is not only harboring sexual predators, but they're also working hand in hand with the deep state and intelligence agencies of the United States, as the FBI and CIA play a very large part when it comes to making, producing, and promoting influential movies and TV series. And just from the CIA alone, we recently learned that over 1,800 movies and TV shows have been directly influenced by the CIA, in which most of the situations they push for more war propaganda and censorship of anti-war messages, playing an active role, sometimes even changing the scripts of TV shows and movies to fit the line to work as government engineering, propaganda, information warfare against you. And even though some of these documents came out, it is still unknown the extent of the shadowy involvement of the CIA and the entertainment media business. And that's why we all have to share this video and other alternatives like DTube and BitChute, which we started uploading our videos on, because unlike the ABC network, we're not influenced by any corporate or government influence. The same ABC, which is being pushed and promoted on everyone through YouTube, while our channels and everyone else questioning the narrative or the status quo is censored, pushed off the platform, or just deleted. And yeah, now the corrupt, government-involved CIA propaganda, information war, media, corporate empire has now taken over YouTube. It is very clear. People who are waking up to their propaganda, going to YouTube for real news, independent news, not biased by any government or corporation, going to a platform that was supposed to be for everyone and a bastion of free speech, has been officially destroyed. And it's critically important for everyone to understand this the next time they decide to vote with their clicks. So yeah, that's the news for today. Another not so optimistic news update, but critically important information that needs to get out there to the American public. I appreciate everyone who goes to wearechange.org/donate, because obviously with the demonetization, it's only you and your donations through this website that allow us to still be here. I love you guys. Thank you again so much for watching.